Thank you, Dr. Willer-Smith. Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to this Congress. And the Italian registry was created by Maurizio Luisetti and the IDA group, which is the scientific group that supported most of activities and projects related to alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency in Italy. And it was launched in 1996. Maurizio, with the Italian registry, was also one of the founders of the alpha-1 antitrypsin international registry, AIR. And now the Italian registry account for 429 patients. 83% of them have the minimal data set required to be enrolled in the alpha-1 international registry. As you can see, the enrollment of patients in the Italian registry in AIR has been continuous but not constant, and it depends a lot of from the awareness campaign that has been launched in Italy in this long period, and also from the activity of the target screening for alpha-1 antitrypsin in Italy. This screening started 20 years ago, and at the beginning it accounted for 16 alpha-1 antitrypsin reference centers, should be center in which the doctors recognize the suspect deficiency, collect data, collect samples, and send it to the center in Pavia for diagnosis. Nowadays, the structure of the target screening program is not so much changed. I mean, there are more centers in which there are a big awareness for this disease, but actually every doctor in Italy with a reasonable suspect of alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency can send a sample to Pavia. The central role of the lab for diagnosis in Pavia has been consolidated. Obviously, every lab in Italy can perform a diagnosis of alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, but Pavia has a leader role because it uses state-of-the-art techniques, standard procedures. It has well-trained and dedicated personnel, which have very long experience in this field. And the centralization of the diagnosis permits a reducing of the cost. Moreover, the center of Pavia is also the reference center for the registry, and this makes easier the enrollment of new patients in the registry. In fact, when we discovered a new severe alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency patient, together with the report, we asked the doctor to collect clinical data from the patient, and clinical data can be sent to our center. And in this way, 87% of diagnosed severe alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency has been enrolled in the registry. Most of patients of the registry came from the north of Italy, especially from Lombardy and from northeast of Italy. And this is due to epidemiological reason, but also to the fact that, especially in the past, the awareness of this disease was higher in the north region in comparison to the south region. According to the reason for diagnosis, 60% of patients have been diagnosed for lung diseases and 20% of patients because of family screening, whereas liver diseases or occasional findings are minor reason for diagnosis. Therefore, 70% of patients in the registry are index cases. One of the typical characteristics of the Italian registry is the high frequency of rare, deficient, or null variants other than S and Z. In the alpha-1 international registry, they account for 3.2%. In the Italian registry, 20% of patients enrolled in the registry have at least one deficient or null allele, pathological allele, other than S and Z. This is a very high percentage. And this map shows you the distribution of genotype in Italy. As expected, PI, ZZ are more frequent in the north because Z allele came from the north. But rare allele are present everywhere in Italy. We have a lot of pathological allele in our registry. 25 pathological allele are described in our registry. And some of these variants, rare variants, are specific of certain regions or certain area. For example, M. Malton is more frequent in Sardinia, or M. procida is more frequent in central Italy. P. Lowell is found in this area, and null pordenone, which is a new allele we discovered recently, is not is pretty often in this area. Rare variants are seldom taken into account, but the huge number of patients with rare variants prompt us to investigate better the clinical phenotype of this patient in some recent papers. And in particular, these are pretty new data, we find a strict relationship between the age of onset of the first lung symptoms, age at diagnosis of alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. Usually we have a delay of 8 years between first symptoms and diagnosis, and the genotype. We expected, for example, that the null patient, which actually have no alpha-1 antitrypsin at all, have an early symptoms in comparison to the other genotype. But this data confirmed also the hypothesis that only one null allele in combination with any other pathological allele could statistically decrease the age of onset of the first lung symptoms. And regarding augmentation therapy, from our registry, it's clear that patients with rare variants start augmentation therapy before patients with ZZ allele or SZ allele. As Professor Chapman has already told before, the registry are important in improving the understanding of rare disease. And with this aim, last autumn, Maurizio Luisetti and Mark Miravitles promoted the creation of a supplement of the Journal of COPD to put inside the contribution of the different national registry to understanding the disorder. And hopefully this project went on because last February, Mark and Vito Brusasco published the editorial of Journal of COPD, where they introduced this supplement dedicated to Maurizio. And Maurizio was also the brain of the Italian part dedicated to the general data of the registry and the quality of life evaluation. Just as a short introduction, the last two slides in which I show you very quickly some of the results of this paper. For example, we compared indexed and non-indexed patients, and we demonstrated that indexed patients are more frequently men with a smoking history, whereas the working exposure was not statistically related to index case. Moreover, we analyzed the clinical characteristic of patients with only lung disease, only liver disease, and lung and both liver disease together. And here it is clear that the patient with both with lung and liver disease have clinical features that are similar to those with lung disease. And when we compare the patient with liver disease to patient with lung disease, we show that, for example, patients with liver disease are younger, have a more preserved lung function. This is expected, and they have a less consumption of cigarette. But what it is interesting is that symptoms onset age is pretty early in a patient with liver disease in comparison with a patient with lung disease. I've nominated Maurizio Luisetti many times during this presentation because even if he's not here physically, he's here as part of this event, and here it is at his table. Thank you very much.